It's been over a year since Splatoon 3 is released. The game's gotten a variety of updates including content, new features, patches, and quality of life changes. With all of this time passed and all these things updated, I think it's safe to finally say we were given an early access game full price. Now, I love Splatoon 3. The mechanics are amazing, so it's almost painful to go back to Splatoon 2 without being able to squid roll, or huck eggs in Salmon Run. The single-player campaign is great both story-wise and gameplay-wise, combining the best parts of normal Splatty with the challenge stylings of Octo Expansion. The lockers are a cute little addition for customization, and the titles, banners, and badges allow you to show off more of individuality. Salmon Run is better than it's ever been and is no longer time-locked, and Table Turf probably could have been cooler if it had online at launch, but I definitely got burnt out kicking Baby Jelly to the curb repeatedly since the higher level NPCs barely gave more EXP and would read your moves. The game now is honestly in a pretty great state, and we're finally getting some good maps, but there's absolutely no denying that Splatty 3 kinda just dropped off. I'll preface by saying this video is unfortunately mostly negative. I love this game, but I hate how it's been handled, and most of the good I've covered in other videos. What's about to follow are opinions and jokes, so you can take it all with a side of When the game first released, I was fully prepared to become a Splatoon tuber. I had the icon change and multiple scripts written and ready to go, but then like a month after release, everyone was just kinda tired of it. It followed the free update formula that the first two games popularized, but this was already a bit weird because Splatoon 2 is on the same console. The game launched with only 12 maps and 55 weapons, so it was already incredibly lacking in content compared to the previous title that you could play on the same system. Sure, Splatoon 2's update cycle had been completed, but I feel as though a sequel is supposed to go above and beyond. Like, what if in Tears of the Kingdom you only got to explore the Rito region and then 3 months later Zora's opened up? Or even look at Smash Ultimate in comparison to Smash 4 in terms of characters and stuff. Even a year after release, Splatoon 3 doesn't match map or weapon count. Not to mention, everyone is getting sick of this format because free updates no longer means free updates. It means early access disguised as a full-price game. Free updates implies additions, not omissions. This format killed ARMS, it butchered all the Switch Mario sports games, neutered Animal Crossing, and I believe it's why Splatoon 3 hasn't had as much lasting power as a lot of people thought it would. The game still uses a 2-stage rotation, which can be exhausting. There's been instances where I've played one of the two once, and then every other match was the second. And when that second is either Scorch Gorge or Mincemeat, that's painful. Huge missed opportunity to at the very least make the rotations 3 maps. For, Splatoon 3, with its 3 hosts. Not only that, but none of the maps were very fun. They all followed this weird Tetris piece pattern that just made every midpoint a gigantic chokehold with 0 flank options, making range weapons like chargers and splatlings incredibly safe and difficult to punish. Normally boiling down to use a special or the same weapon to counter, which is horrendous gameplay. I'm sure I'll get heat for it, but Splatoon 3 is 100% more fun in games without splatlings or chargers. I had no issues with them in previous titles, but with these maps and this netcode, they just stall and punish you for moving in a movement shooter. Like, I'll say it, in Splatoon 3, I hate chargers and splatlings more than the trash can. Because at least if the trash can is on the other team, I know I'm getting free kills. The online of the game was somehow worse than 2. It was impossible for me to go an entire stream without getting an error, a crash, or a disconnect in the early life cycle of the game. Speaking of streams, feel free to check out twitch.tv/Scott_Falco. Playing with friends was a bit of a chore since you'd constantly be remaking lobbies because of either stage rotation booting everyone or getting disconnected errors every other game. This of course alienated a lot of casual players. True, at this point in time the online is better, but it's still Nintendo Online. It's rare to have a flawless match and not have confirmed show up seconds after a splat, ink pop-ins, or of course, chargers aiming 50 feet to your left and still one-shotting you. Now the pooled system is great because I've had a pool that I used to play with fans and I can finally just play Turf War online with fans and actually progress instead of being left to private battles locking me out of gaining EXP. But even with the pool system, you can't join someone until they are in a match, unless you only want to 4-stack. So when you're playing with 8 people and getting those rotations or errors, you will have to wait to get back to the lobby and for someone to jump into a match and then wait for that match to end in order to join. Maybe it's diving down the rabbit hole, but I remember Splatoon 3 having some kind of anti-cheat or anti-piracy system in play. Basically something that Splatoon 2 didn't have. And I'm guessing whatever that is what causes all these errors since the previous title wasn't this bad. And nowadays, it's kind of impossible to just play Turf War for fun solo. Chances are, if you ever try a new weapon, you'll have Timmy, Tammy, and Tommy as your teammates booting up Splatty for the first time, while you face off against the pre-made of 4 training for their next scrim, sporting their one tricks they have 500 hours in. The community is somehow even messier during the Splatfest. Like, there's always been banter, but people are just being downright hostile now. I've seen some spamming reports on people with the other team's tea, and others are even going so far as to call you racist for not picking Fry. I'd always have people showing up to Splatfest streams and actively cheering and insulting me when I'd lose a match because it meant a point for their Manta Overlord. Plus, these just also kind of feel like a huge step down from 2, since with later Splatfest we had the shifty stations and they were amazing additions. In this we have slightly altered maps for Tricolor mode and only one custom so far, and that was just a triangle. Tricolors would feel a lot better if they had actual unique stages and maybe incorporated some of the mechanics from single player. Like, imagine a stage with a grind rail around the signal so you could kind of have like someone sentrying or like being a turret. I don't know. Theme-wise, it feels a little off with the 3 idols, since most of the Splatfest have boiled down to Shiver having the generally right opinion, Big Man having the meme option, and then Fry's option is like punching puppies or something. Salmon Run on the other end is basically just a huge step up, but I'm also curious why it kind of feels shafted. It seems like such a big mode. I know so many people that exclusively play for Salmon Run, and yet it gets even less updates. In a full year, we have gotten 1 new stage, and I mean brand new. Outside of that, it's only been 2 other returning stages. It's such a letdown because this mode is fantastic. It's chaotic, it's hectic, sometimes borderline stressful, but it's a blast. Maybe Salmon Run hasn't gotten new stages because of the Big Run mode that was added in this title, which is Salmon Run but on the regular maps. The mode is pretty cool, and some of the stages I prefer more than the normal maps, spawning grounds, but you can't play them 90% of the time. You get a random rotation during these events, but that makes matches feel less about skill and more about RNG. Because obviously the team that pulls a Glowfish, Griller, and Fog round with completely optimal weapons are probably going to perform better than the team that got shafted with a bunch of normal waves and chargers only, because they don't get that lag bonus with NPCs. With most casuals having left the scene, getting top 50% in big runs is now what top 5% was in the first one. It's also weird too, because you'd think during Big Run they do the golden rotations, that's all Grizzco weapons, seeing as how like it's an invasion. But nothing really conveys that in the game other than the sky. You still got Octos and Squids giggling and strutting around the plaza. I'm also surprised we've only gotten 1 new King Salmonid so far, and it wasn't even during the first Big Run. The game now updates in a battle pass and seasonal format, which, I mean, I get it. I get that it's the norm, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it. If you want to get the funny emotes for your characters, hand over your free time because Splatoon 3 is your life now. Completed catalogs are a grind in this. I only ever managed to complete the first one since I could do Splatoon 3 streams and kind of have them pop off. Outside of that, even with playing every now and then with friends and hopping on for every Splatfest and Big Run, I barely make it halfway. Plus with this format, we get a drop, and then nothing for 3 months. Maybe a balanced patch, but absolutely no new maps or modes or weapons, and the updates seem to be getting smaller. Like, for this anniversary patch, we got the least amount of new kits. No new King Salmonid, no new mode, just the Splatfest they normally end the series in, but they're probably doing it early to impact the DLC. This is where that issue came in. The game started so bare bones in the multiplayer aspect. You couldn't form coded lobbies, you couldn't play Table Turf Online. I mean, you could barely play with the way that the netcode was. And after a week, you had basically seen everything the game had to offer at that point, which is probably fine for a single player game, but in an online multiplayer game, nuh-uh. I will say, at least from my semi-casual experience, the ranked mode is fantastic in this, where even if you lose and you're still performing well, you can progress. And even if you do win, if you were just getting carried, it won't reward you as much. Every one of these modes is a million times more fun than Turf War, and I wish that, like, there was a more casual method to play these modes. Sure, now there's ranked open, which is probably as close as you'll get, because you'd have to lose almost constantly to rank down. I'm not a big fan of the challenges, though. Like, they have cool concepts, but what the hell are the time locks? Most of these would happen at either like 6 in the morning or 10 at night for me. And if you missed like a 3-day window, you were just out of luck for a month or so because you can't even throw these modifiers on for private battles, which is a huge letdown. I really wish the private battles allowed that kind of customization. Like, man, if we could get like Halo modifiers in Splatoon 3, that'd be so much fun and had a ton of potential for content and such. Like, God, I wish I could do a Grizzco weapon randomizer Turf War. I'm at such a loss because honestly, I do love this game. I still play it weekly and I still enjoy it. But the game clearly should have started in like Season 3. The game almost alienates you with how much it wants you to play too. Like, it wants to be the only game you touch. You need to grind for levels to unlock weapons, grind catalog levels to unlock emotes and gear, grind anything to get chunks for an optimal build, which by the way is random, grind to get cash to either buy new stuff or gamble on gacha only to get a level up ticket. And it was very adamant about pushing this early on, and when there was not a whole lot of content to start, that's what burned so many people out of this game, because to play optimally, they had to play non-stop, and when there wasn't stuff to keep it fresh, they just got bored. Now, I don't think everything should be unlocked right away. I'm fine with some grind, but maybe take out some of the RNG. Like, maybe make it so the drinks in the game actually give you the ability, like stop that isn't special charge up. The game probably didn't need to be a sequel, and it might have fit better as another big DLC to Splatoon 2, especially seeing as how Mario Kart 8 DX is still having its DLC pass go almost 10 years later. But I don't know. Am I being unreasonable? Like, is this just the norm now to release unfinished games and call them complete? Only to add on features that would have and should have been in the base game? Even asking online, I found that a lot of people had similar grievances that I did. A lot complained about the stages. We do still have DLC coming, eventually. There's still no release date. With Splatoon 2, the game didn't really pop off until Octo Expansion kind of popularized it. So maybe when that game hits and you can have all the Splat 3 teams focusing solely on updates, maybe we can get things schmoving for the final year of the update cycle. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think this kind of format is fine, what you like about Splatoon 3, and what you hate. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. See you when Side Order drops.